Everybody is looking for their own art style, but how do you find it? Is it over there? No. With enough time and practice, it will come to you naturally, but it can take a long time. What if you want to find it right now? Well, this week's YouTube Art School class should help in 3 easy steps. Keep watching. Oh heck, quickly, we're gonna be late for class. All right, class is in session. Pay attention. If you've ever been trying to find your style, you're just like literally every artist. Having a distinct style will be great to help distinguish yourself from the millions of artists out there, so it's a natural thing to search for. With that said, your style will really be a collection of preferences that you'll develop over time, which is why it can take time if you wait to find it passively. Every time you look at someone's art you like, it's bound to leave a trace on your own art. Maybe big, maybe small. Maybe you like how someone draws the nose on their characters, or the subtle shading they use when coloring, or the way they stylize anatomy. Over time, these preferences tend to make their way into your own art, and how you piece them all together will be unique to you, like your own personal drawing recipe. With that said, there are definitely things that you can do to actively work on developing your style instead of going the passive route. I've split this legendary art quest of finding your style into 3 simple steps. If you follow these, you should be able to find it in a matter of weeks rather than years. Not bad. You ready for this? For step 1, without thinking about the difficulty level or anything other than if you like it or not, I want you to go ahead and put together a folder with a bunch of art that you love. Maybe something like 30 to 40 pieces from different artists. It doesn't have to be an artwork as a whole, it can totally be just a part of it, just a cropped section. I used to do that myself, I had it all on Tumblr here, but any way you prefer to save images will work just as well. It could be a Pinterest, could be a folder on your computer, whatever. Any way you choose, once you have a bunch collected, you're ready to move on to step 2. That was easy. At step 2, your task will be to analyze all of those reference images that you collected. I want you to identify as precisely as you can what you like for each of them. Chances are it won't be the whole piece, but even if it is, what is it that you like the most? Take time to write up a list of all those things that you like, either in a sketchbook or a Google Docs file, whatever, but it's important to take time to physically write it down. Once the list of things that you like is complete, the next thing I want you to do is go through it all again and ask yourself this time if each specific thing is something that you would like for your own art, or if it's something that you simply enjoy to look at. I guess the better question would be, is it jealousy or admiration you feel towards all of those points you identified? There's a distinct difference between the two. You can totally love how an artist does something specific in their art, like I do for a lot of artists, but you might not necessarily want this for your own art. Personally, I love looking at retro pixel art or the art styles of certain animated series or animes, but it's not necessarily something I have any interest in doing myself. I'm just an admirer. And just like me, if it's admiration that you feel towards some of the things you identified, it's probably something you just think is nice, but don't feel a particular inclination to replicate. If it's envy, on the other hand, like you wish you could do the same, like steal the artist's skills, then that's more likely something that you want as part of your style, right? Makes sense. So discard anything from your list that you're not envious of. You should be left with things that you envy only. And just to clarify, it might be stuff that you already do, but maybe not as well as you'd like. And you might have to go back to step number 1 if you're left with too few things that you envy and too many that you admire after you sort them out that way. Step 2 is really all about figuring out what is it that you're looking for with your art. It's a process of self-reflection in a way. Make sure you have a nice, elaborate skill envy list before moving on to step number 3. So the final step is where you'll work on developing or fine-tuning your style based on your research. You already identified a bunch of characteristics from other people's art that you'd like to be able to recreate for your own art. Now, how the heck do you combine it all into a cohesive style? Well, first, based on what you previously identified as skills you were envious of, you'll want to gauge just how close or how far you are from being technically able to do it and build a game plan for it. You need a plan. I recommend placing each item from your list in a category based on, how confident you feel you can replicate it, like easy, medium, or hard. For some of the style choices you've identified, I'm sure you're able to immediately apply some of it to your art, but some others might require you to study a little bit or a lot. Write it all down along with what you would need to study, if needed, to achieve it. Simply speaking, you gotta learn your art fundamentals. Good art styles are collections of small aesthetic changes to the art fundamentals such as perspective, anatomy, color theory, just to name a few. The total of all those small changes is what we call a style. With good fundamentals, you should be able to mimic any style like most professional artists can. And by the way, if you need help learning any of the fundamentals, it's a major focus on my big art program that you can find more information about with the link in the video description. The program is on sale until the end of the month to celebrate reaching 14,000 students, which is insane. You should definitely join us too. We have an awesome community. Now back to the class though, if you're not there yet, if your fundamentals aren't quite sufficient to replicate the characteristics you identified on your list, write down the ones you'll need to further study in your plan and do the same for each item on your list. For example, if you like how a certain artist stylizes the anatomy of their characters, you would need a certain knowledge of the fundamental of anatomy to understand what a real body looks like and how different the artist, whose skills you envy, deviated from reality to achieve it. How did they tweak reality and by how much? What changes did they make to get their results? If you learn enough about anatomy, you'll be able to spot this right away and do the same. So do that for everything you have on your list and build yourself a checklist of skills to tackle over time, starting with the skills you feel most comfortable with. Always best to start with stuff that's easier for you. And by the way, I put together a 1-year art study plan in a recent class, so you'd probably get pretty good results if you were to use its structure to help inform your art style plan. You'll find a link to it in the top right corner of the screen here or down in the video description. You won't piece together your art style in one day, but one detail after another. Start implementing what you've identified in step 2 into your art. Over a couple of weeks of deliberate practice, you should see your style transform with each new addition, getting closer and closer to your ideal. What's cool with art styles is that you can never really tell what yours will end up like. It's a process of discovery as you combine different characteristics from art sourced from a variety of different artists, like a baby maturing into an adult. And like I said earlier, it really is a combination of all your preferences. What is your style going to be like? I hope this helps you discover the answer. And that's gonna be it for this week's class. I hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments. As usual, I read all of them and I appreciate them all. Also, it wouldn't be a proper class without freebies time. Since you're a good student, I'll share the brush that I used for today's drawing with you for free as part of my custom brush set that you can download with the link in the video description. There's even a Clip Studio Paint version for it if that's what you're using. Very epic. And yeah, if you like the content, there's more like this every week on the channel, so drop me a sub and I'll keep on sharing my trade secrets with you for free. So don't be late for next week's class. I'm warning